This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Oh yeah, set to go. Another weekend is upon us. A lot of good hockey talk coming up over the next couple of hours. On the road this week. It's been a busy week. So much going on in the NHL. We got a loaded show as well. We're jumping into guests almost right off the hop as well. Lapinski, Arizona Coyotes radio host, will join us shortly. Get the latest on the Oats. Got a big come-from-behind victory a couple of days ago. They get the Philadelphia Flyers later on this evening. Jesse Dougherty of the Washington Post covering the Washington Capitals with breaking news that Lars Eller has just re-signed with the Capitals for 5 more years. We'll get into that and much more. It is a big reunion in Montreal once again. Yes, a departed defenseman who comes back, and PK Subban will be in Nashville Predators colors as he takes to the ice at Bell Center tonight. Robyn Flynn covers the Habs for TSN 690 in the Athletic Montreal. She will join us this hour as well. Also coming up, latest on the Carolina Hurricanes. It's been kind of a funny back and forth week for the Carolina Hurricanes. Some good things, some not so good things. It kind of goes back to last weekend when Bill Peters said, that's not acceptable. We can't put that group out again. And we had some better efforts. So we'll get into a whole bunch of stuff with Michael Smith from the Carolina Hurricanes. And Bob Duff is this month's author of the month because he is the author of this month's book of the month called The First Season, detailing the beginnings of the National Hockey League. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles for us again this week. We're here every Saturday and Sunday live at 11 a.m. Eastern at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app powered by Primetime Radio. It is Saturday, of course. We are looking for your nominations for Dog of the Day. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We like to honor and recognize great dogs. Send us a photo via Twitter, via Instagram, using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and we will select a winner before the program comes to a conclusion a couple hours from now. That photo goes up on our Facebook page, on our website, in the Dog of the Day gallery, because we like to honor great dogs. One quick thing before we jump into the latest on the Yotes with Luke Lapinski. The Maple Leafs have just released officially their Stadium Series uniforms, and apparently white is the new black because there is an awful lot of white. The sweater, the socks, the pants, the gloves, and there is a little bit of blue. If it's snowing outside, you won't be able to see them. And they will be very stealth on that day as they take on the Washington Capitals on March the 3rd. It's a little too much white for my liking, but weigh in if you wish. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Oh yeah, it's been a busy week in the NHL. We got a full slate of games coming up on the schedule today with 9 of them. We had a busy Friday night in the National Hockey League, and Sunday is also now a busy day as well because football's over, so the schedule kind of fans out, and we get all-day hockey on Sundays as well. We've got more of that coming up to the end of the regular season, which is all very positive. We like that. In fact, there's morning hockey and coming up in St. Louis on Sunday, but we'll get into more of that in just a little bit. There's some good games on the Saturday schedule. As mentioned, the Arizona Coyotes are hosting the Philadelphia Flyers. Luke Lapinski will join us momentarily. We're just having a bit of an audio issue. We'll correct it momentarily. But there's some other good games coming up as well. Buffalo is in Boston. How about those Boston Bruins? Man, they just keep winning. And how many weeks ago was it? Was it 3 weeks ago? I think I kind of wondered out loud, do the Bruins have a chance to catch the Tampa Bay Lightning for top spot in the Atlantic? They're still a few points behind. There's still a couple of games in hand. But yeah, I would not rule out the possibility of the Boston Bruins passing the Tampa Bay Lightning before the season comes to an end. It's going to be a really interesting couple of weeks as we get towards the trade deadline and as we get towards the end of the regular season, as teams start shuffling around and looking for moves to make before the deadline coming up on the 26th. I mentioned Tampa Bay and the Bruins. Tampa Bay is hosting a very special night this evening because they are honoring Vincent Lecavalier. They will retire his number 4, and a great tribute, a great honor for Vincent Lecavalier. It's nice to see the Tampa Bay Lightning doing that. They retired Marty St. Louis last year. They get to Vincent Lecavalier this year. Personally, I would have done it the other way around. but that's in the past, and that's been done. But I think it's great for the Tampa Bay Lightning to be doing that. We have now reconnected with Luke Lapinski, Arizona Coyotes radio host. Follow him on Twitter at Luke Lapinski, and he joins us now. Luke, that's a heck of a win for the against the Minnesota Wild a couple of nights ago for the Arizona Coyotes. That's got to have the Yotes feeling pretty good as they get back home to host the Philadelphia Flyers. That's the kind of win you can build on as a team.
Yeah, they needed a game like that. They had actually played pretty good through the whole month of January, and then they hit the All-Star break. And, you on the one hand, you want the break to kind of rest up and get healthy, but on the other hand, it can take some momentum away. And they came out of that break slow against Dallas and LA, and they looked a little bit better against Winnipeg on Tuesday. But then it looked like it was all going back out the window again against Minnesota the first half, and they were down 3-0. To rally like that against a team that they traditionally have a pretty tough time against, and to have the guys who scored goals be the ones that brought was pretty good for them.
Yeah, well, and Clayton Keller has been making some noise all season long, and he, of course, has the big goal, the winning goal, and continues to lead the team in points.
Yeah, but I mean, even to get him going, he hadn't scored in 2018. I want to say it was 4 goals in 3 months. Since November 6th, that was his 4th goal. I mean, he hasn't been scoring since October. He's been getting the assists, but in terms of goals, to get one from him, to get 2 from Nick Cousins, who's been a really pleasant surprise for this team this year. And, they brought him in to do a lot of different things on that 3rd and 4th line, but not necessarily because of his scoring. And yet he's got 9 goals. And Kevin Connauton scored 3 goals in the last 4 games. I mean, he's been their most consistent guy since the All-Star break offensively.
Yeah, but again, this is the kind of win that a team as Arizona, which is in the transition of trying to get younger players and building towards the future, this is the kind of game that can give you a little bit of momentum. And I'm not sure what Rick Tocchet has done since then, but I suspect he's tried to get this team to focus on the positives of that game, to the things that they did properly to get themselves back into a position to have a victory. These are the things to concentrate on going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the collective experience of different ways to win games for a young team like this. And so, they started, it took them a while to experience their first just win as a team this season, getting out of the gates. And they were playing a lot of games close, but they weren't winning. Then you saw them start to sort of figure out what it takes to win games at the NHL level, and they were doing that for a while. But they haven't had a comeback like that where they were down 3-0 midway through a game on the road against a team fighting for a playoff spot. And it's one thing to believe as a group that you can do that, but it's another thing to now have a specific game where you can point to and you can say, hey, we're down 2-0 against whoever, but we were worse off against Minnesota and we came back and won.
Luke Lapinski is our guest. He's the Arizona Coyotes radio host. You can follow him on Twitter at Luke Lapinski. After a big win against the Wild, the Arizona Coyotes back home on Saturday night to host the Philadelphia Flyers. I kind of like the 6 p.m. local time start for Saturday nights, too. That's something that Arizona started, I think it was last year, but it seems to be something that they're continuing with and trying to build as a day for the Coyotes and an earlier start time.
Yeah, they've been doing it for a little bit now, and it seems to work out pretty well for everybody. I mean, you can't really do it during the week just because the traffic to get to that side of town, you basically have to go through downtown. It's just that's unrealistic. They have to have the 7 o'clock starts, but 6 o'clock on the weekends has worked out pretty well, I think, for everybody.
And it's I believe they were trying to do the tailgate thing as well and try and get that part of the experience going and have some atmosphere around the arena and build the culture that way.
Yeah, that was something they were doing for a while there. It was probably 2 years ago, and it was working out pretty well. I mean, you still see some people doing it. It's not as much of a focus now, but when you have the game a little bit earlier in the day, you allow for people to get out to Westgate and maybe just sort of hang out around there and sort of make it almost a full day experience.
Right. Okay. So now, as we're getting closer to the trade deadline, a lot of people have been focusing on the Coyotes through much of this season as what are they going to do? Are they going to be sellers? Are there going to be moves that the Coyotes make at the trade deadline? So many people were focusing on Oliver Ekman-Larsson for so long. I think that's started to quiet down. I don't suspect we've heard the last of it, but is there a plan that John Chayka has shared, or is there a direction he wants to go that he's discussed and what he'll be focused on in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, since Scheika's taken over, he hasn't really made a lot of big trades where the Coyotes have given up anything of major consequence. I mean, for the most part, he's made moves, to move up in the draft and get Jacob Chikrin 2 drafts ago, or little moves like that where they get something in return that could help them for the future, but they don't give up anything that's a big piece of the future. So, you hear some names bounced around, but specifically on Oliver, I mean, if you look at what the Coyotes need to build their team, they need an anchor on that blue line. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson may be older than the 19-year-olds on the team, but he's not old by any means in this league. So I know that rumor's been out there, and it's been out there for, I guess, years now, because teams see OEL and they feel like they need that on their blue line, and it makes sense. But that's I would think somebody they're going to want to still build around on the blue line if they can.
Well, I agree with you. And he said all the right things, that he wants to be here. He likes it in Arizona, and that's where he wants to stay and build toward the future. And you're right. He's certainly not old by any stretch of the imagination. And I do like the acquisition of young talent by the Arizona Coyotes. There was also a story about a week ago that it was reported Max Domi may be available. Now, we always get this kind of stuff, especially leading up to the deadline. He's had his difficulties and struggles this year, certainly in terms of the amount of goal scoring, but that's also another speedy, talented player that you don't not necessarily want to move on too quickly from.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, if you're trading Max Domi, you know he has more value than his stats are showing this year. So chances are, if you're trading him, you're getting maybe not pennies on the dollar, but you're not, you don't want to sell stock when it's at its lowest. So, he was great for this team now 2 seasons ago. Last year, he had the issues with the injury that sort of derailed his season. And this year, the puck isn't going in for him on shots. Like, he hit the post again the other night on a really nice move in overtime. And he's not, his shooting percentage is it's just not going to sustain that low. But, on the other side, they do ultimately need more production from him. If this was the production they were getting from him every year, then I'm sure they would move on. But I think there's confidence they'll be able to get more from him on the ice. If somebody comes along with some amazing offer, I don't think John Scheika has closed his doors to any offers. But I would think at the trade deadline, they're probably going to, if they make moves, it's going to be more guys that they don't see as part of the future.
Absolutely, because this is a team that wants to build and move toward the future. I'm glad you mentioned Jacob Chikrin too, because I just think he is the kind of defenseman that will serve Arizona very well in the years to come. I like what I have seen from him very early in his career.
Yeah, I mean, the defense as it's working out, and the first half of the season, either Chikrin was hurt or Nicholas Hjalmarsson was hurt, or they just never had the full complement of defensive players that they expected to have at the start of the year together and healthy in the lineup for the first half of the season. But now you start to look at Jacob Chikrin, he's just such a steady force back there, and you forget how young he is. And you start to look forward and you say, okay, well, you're going to have Oliver Ekman-Larsson probably, and Nicholas Hjalmarsson and Jacob Chikrin, and who knows how the draft lottery goes. If you end up picking number 1, you could add a really nice defenseman there too. So if you look down the line, even into next year, defense could really be the strength of this team. And I think it will be the strength of this team. It could actually be one of the better defenses in the Western Conference if everybody stays healthy.
Luke Lapinski, Arizona Coyotes radio host. It's the Coyotes hosting the Philadelphia Flyers, 6 p.m. local time this evening. At Luke Lapinski is how you follow him on Twitter. Thanks for this, Luke. We appreciate the time as always, and I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Luke Lapinski from the Arizona Coyotes. Hey, there's a long way to go for the Arizona Coyotes. They need more talent. They need more young players. The Max Domi thing that's surfaced. It was about a week ago, saying that he might be made available. It's funny how names tend to start dropping out just a week or 2 before the NHL trade deadline. It's like, oh yeah, this might happen, and if it's worn out in Arizona, there will be someone who is certainly willing to take a chance on Max Domi and bring him in and think, yeah, there's a guy who was talented a couple of years ago, scored a bunch of goals, came into the league, can do some things, maybe just in the right situation, a new start, maybe it works out for him. but there's some good things happening in Arizona. Hey, there's still a long way to go. A long way to go in terms of talent, in terms of player, and in terms of figuring out where they're going to play long term as well. That's the other one that just keeps seeming to get kicked down the road in terms of Arizona. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Busy program coming up. We'll talk Washington Capitals coming up in the next segment. Some news on the Caps. Lars Eller has re-signed 5-year contract extension for the Washington Capitals. Jesse Dougherty will talk to us more about that and other Caps stories next. Robyn Flynn later on this hour. Montreal at home to the Nashville Predators. Yeah, weren't those two teams involved in a trade not that long ago? I'm sure we'll get into that and a few other things. Michael Smith talking Canes. Bob Duff with our book of the month, The First Season. The author will join us later on in the program as well. And I'm still rubbing my eyes and trying to sort out these new Stadium Series uniforms that the Maple Leafs have released. They're playing Washington Capitals March the 3rd, and there is a lot of white in them. Gloves, pants, just about everything else. If you want to weigh in, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. A little talk on the Washington Capitals with Jesse Dougherty right after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, SeatGiant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and SeatGiant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition. We are here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com. Also streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app. You can download it now at the App Store. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Busy show today with a busy schedule in the National Hockey League. A nice schedule. No afternoon action today, but that will happen tomorrow. We're going to see much more of that on Sundays. We had a full slate of games on Friday night. New York Islanders, Detroit Red Wings played to a 7-6 overtime victory for the New York Islanders on Friday night. If you're just kind of waking up and go, what was that? What was that all about? Well, it was just Detroit having things under control for a while. Up 3-0. Islanders get a couple. Detroit bounces back. And then the Islanders roar back in the third period, all aided by a Tyler Bertuzzi penalty. My goodness. We'll get into that game and a whole bunch of others coming up. Robyn Flynn, before the top of the hour, will join us to talk about the Montreal Canadiens hosting the Nashville Predators tonight at Bell Center. And also, pleased to welcome back to the program Jesse Dougherty, covering the Washington Capitals for the Washington Post. You can follow him on Twitter at Dougherty_Jesse, and he joins us now with the breaking news information that Lars Eller has just re-signed with the Washington Capitals 5 more years, $17.5 million. Jesse, I don't know if you were aware this was in the works, but I think it's good news for the Washington Capitals. Stability, good solid player at I think a fairly reasonable price.
Absolutely, I think it's fantastic for the Capitals. Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily saw it coming, especially since last year they waited until the summer to re-sign all their guys for the most part. But yeah, maybe they learned from that, because that sort of hamstrung them a bit in free agency. You have to think maybe Kuznetsov's heightened contract is one of the reasons Marcus Johansson had to go in a trade. So I think the Capitals maybe learned that it's better to get these deals done during the season when the players have a bit less leverage, because Eller now maintains his cap hit for the next 5 seasons. We haven't talked to him yet here at practice. I'm here now, but I imagine the longevity of the contract is what drew him to it. But the fact that the Capitals get to keep paying him $3.5 million, he's having a great year, and keep their top 3 centers the 2019-2020 season now, that's a really great deal for them.
Well, and you're right, and the money part of it too. I mean, 5 years is good stability for the player, but the money part of it for what is probably a third line center is not outrageous, and unlike some other teams where you're seeing $5 million deals.
Absolutely, and we were talking about it just now with I think that if he hits the open market, I think there are a lot of teams that maybe value him as a second line center, and I don't know if he's good enough for that. Maybe on a team in the bottom half of the league, bottom third of the league, they may give him money to play on the second line, which would heighten obviously his contract. So the fact that the Capitals were able to sort of get to him before he got some of those offers, and teams were sort of maybe poaching him as that guy, I think it's great for them, because it's not an outrageous deal for a third line center. You get to sort of value him as that, rather than other teams coming in and valuing him as something more, whether or not that's warranted or not. And I think it's like you said, money wise, it's really reasonable, and I think it's a great deal for the Capitals to get done now rather than later.
Washington Capitals continue to enjoy top spot in the Metropolitan Division. They are 5 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins heading into play on Saturday. Once the Washington Capitals kind of sorted themselves out at the beginning of the year, they have progressed steadily upwards into the standings. I think people were a little surprised to see them arrive there when they did, but I think if you've watched them play in the last little while, you're not surprised that they are staying up on top in the Metro.
Sure, and yet, you can't say enough about Alex Ovechkin and Braden Holtby. Those are the 2 all-stars, and it might be a bit cliche, but they're the guys that are really driving the ship right now. And Nicholas Backstrom, TJ Oshie have had sort of disappointing down years here. But I think that what you saw last night against the Blue Jackets was an emergence of the secondary scoring options, and that was a huge development for this team, because when Ovechkin and Backstrom aren't putting the puck in the net, this team has struggled a bit, especially when Ovechkin hasn't produced. But last night, you got 2 points from Lars Eller, you got 2 points from Evgeny Kuznetsov, you got a game-winning goal from Jay Beagle, you get a goal from John Carlson, and when those guys start firing for the Capitals, they're such a dangerous team, because they are really good at the top. They're so talented in their top 2 lines. But when the third and fourth lines get going, they're really a tough team to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And Braden Holtby has proven himself to be a Vezina candidate-worthy goaltender for a number of seasons, so he can provide you the stability. If there's a night where the goal scoring is a little tough to come by, Braden Holtby will give you the goaltending that can sometimes ride through the difficult periods early in the game and come back and find a way to win later on.
Absolutely. And he, statistically, he's not as good as he was last year, but I don't think that's really a measure of his play, because this team now is starting 2 true rookie defensemen. They're giving up a lot more chances, depending on what you kind of quantify as high danger chances. They're giving up a lot more of those. So I think that Holtby, maybe he's a little bit frustrated this year with some of the games and some of the goals totals he's given up. But for the most part, he looks just as good as he has been in years past. It's just that they're giving up a lot more chances, and statistically, that's going to lead to a few more goals. So I think he's as good as he's been. Steady as always, really solid. Those last 2 games here in back-to-back wins over Columbus, he's really kept them in it and ousted a lot of tough chances in front. So I just think he's starting to find a rhythm at a really good time for this team.
Jesse Dougherty is our guest covering the Washington Capitals for the Washington Post. At Dougherty_Jesse is how you follow him on Twitter. Caps victorious in both halves of the home and home against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They get the Detroit Red Wings next on Sunday afternoon. Now, there is still some questions about the Washington Capitals that we'll look at heading towards the trade deadline, and also with their lineup as well. Andrei Burakovsky was a healthy scratch again last night against the Columbus Blue Jackets. It seems like Burakovsky's just kind of be a work in progress for Washington this year.
Absolutely. He's really had a hard time getting going. He missed 20 games early on with a thumb injury. He started bouncing out of the lineup. He was sick. He's in a healthy scratch. Just he can't quite get something going. And Barry Trotz has been admittedly hard on him. He wants to sort of wake him up. He wants to give him a tough love treatment, the young guy. Him and Jacob Vrana have sort of both gotten that treatment here in the last month or so. I just think with Burakovsky, it seems like a mental thing with him. I mean, he's shown in the past that one goal can set him on a 10-game streak where he'll score 8 or 9 times and just go on a complete tear. But these dry spells just come too often, and it really gets into his head. And you can connect that to the trade deadline because I think the two things the Capitals could be seeking is, one, some blue line assurance because of those two rookies, and on the other hand, maybe a secondary scorer on the third and fourth line, a solid forward who you can rely on night to night to get you a goal maybe. And that's something that this team sort of lacks right now. Lars Eller and Brett Connolly have been really solid in the third line. Outside of that, it's really the top guys and then everybody else. So there really isn't that secondary scoring punch they had last year this time. And I think going into the playoffs, that's something they really want to have. So if it doesn't come from Burakovsky, they may be seeking elsewhere to get that. I'm not sure what they're going to give up, but they're definitely going to maybe look into that.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to find the match for any potential trade. Sorry if I stepped on you there, Jesse. But the other area of concern for the Washington Capitals too is the defense. As you mentioned, there's some young defensemen. There have been some more chances given up. Is that the other area that the Caps will focus on over the next couple weeks?
Absolutely. And Madison Bailey and Christian Juice, I mean, obviously they haven't been. You can't say they've been bad when the team's in first place. They haven't really been hampering this team that badly, but I'm not sure if you want to go into the playoffs with two of those guys. It's a lot to have. It's a lot to have one true rookie, a guy whose minutes you can maybe cut as these games get longer, and second period, third period, you can sort of slice down their minutes a bit, shorten the rotation. But when you have two of those, you really can't do that. So you're gonna have to have a true rookie in the rotation at all times, and that's tough. They have 3 really solid defensemen, and then Brooks Orpik, who's on the back end of his career, but also has been pretty solid this year as well. These guys have really propped up these rookies, but I think if there's something the Capitals are going to do, I think you saw the move for Kevin Shattenkirk last year. It will not be that. It will not be one of these top puck moving guys. I think it'll be more just a solid veteran presence to give some blue line assurance there.
And a little insurance would be helpful. I think I think the other thing with Washington this year is there isn't the pressure that has been there the last 2 years. It was, we're going for it, yeah. We expect to win, and it seems as though there's a different air, a different attitude, a different approach, and they're not feeling that same sort of intensity they have in the last couple of seasons.
You're right. I don't think it's there, and obviously a lot of that is sort of perpetuated by us too, in the questions we ask and the topics we choose to explore. And I think even from a media perspective, with the way people are covering this team, it doesn't feel like everyone's shouting closing window from the rooftop. It just seems like they're sort of letting this team be what it is, which is a team that's in first place, obviously a solid roster, a lot of good veterans, but I don't think there's these heavy Stanley Cup expectations on this team. Obviously, this city has a long-standing bout with disappointment in the playoffs. So once they do get there, there's going to be a lot of expectations, and no one's going to want to see them with the second-round exit again, like so often has been. But I do think that I think you're right. I think there isn't that burden. Last year was sort of like this team that was going to win now, and they made that Shattenkirk deal. And once they did that, it was sort of clear that McClellan and Trotz were really all in. It felt like a dream team almost. I mean, the first, second, and third lines were just stacked with scoring, and the fourth line even had 2 10-goal scorers on it. I mean, it just seemed like it was a team built to win, and then when they didn't, it was like the air was let out of the balloon, and it was just kind of like, well, what now? There was a lot of skepticism of what the team would look like this year. So the fact that they're in this position, going into the home stretch, first place, a decent cushion, I think it's really impressive. I think it's a good coaching job. I think you have to nod to the veterans who have kept this team together. A few guys have stepped up, and I think they are sort of playing a bit looser without the burden of those expectations like they had last year and in years past.
Yeah, it was if we don't win the Stanley Cup, it's a disappointing season, and that's not a realistic expectation for just about anybody. I'm glad you mentioned Barry Trotz and the coaching job too, because this is kind of the point where he might get a new contract, or things could have gone very differently for him this year.
Yeah, it's and he's still an interesting case too. You see a guy like Eller get signed, and it makes you think right away. Well, what about the coach and the GM? Because both those guys are working right now with you assume to kind of be on their way out, and it's until they're resigned, of course. And I think Trotz, you think that he has to maybe do better than they have been. He has to get past the second round, or he's going to be at risk. It's you don't assume that if he's first round exit or whatever it is that he sort of gets a pass because this team isn't as strong as it was last year on paper. You still have Alex Ovechkin and Braden Holtby and Nick Backstrom and CJ Oshie and Evgeny Kuznetsov. I mean, this isn't a bunch of chumps just playing, playing with house money. It's still a very good hockey team. So I do think there's a lot of expectations for him. Maybe not on the team necessarily, but Trotz still I think has lots of burden here in the home stretch.
Jesse Dougherty covering the Caps for the Washington Post, at Dougherty_Jesse to follow him on Twitter. Great stuff, Jesse. Really appreciate the time and look forward to doing it again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Todd. Always appreciate it.
Thanks, Jesse Dougherty covering the Caps. Good news for the Caps. I like that Lars Eller sign. I think it's third line center on that team. And Jesse made the great point that if he goes to a team in the bottom half of the league, they're going to want him to play second line center. And that's too big an ask for Lars Eller. Sure, you might make more money, not going to win as many games, don't have a chance to go as deep in the playoffs, maybe win a big prize. You get that with the Washington Capitals. And that's I think it's a good fit for both. I think it's a good fit for both. I think it offers both sides a little something of what they need. We'll get into more of that a bit later on in terms of what do you pay guys, how much are guys getting paid, and there's a comparison I'll make with Lars Eller coming up a little bit later on in the program. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handle. Still looking for your nominations for Dog of the Day. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Via Twitter, via Instagram. We like to recognize great dogs. We'll pick a winner before the end of the show. Robyn Flynn will join us in the next segment. We'll talk a little Montreal Canadiens. Habs hosting the Nashville Predators. Yeah, a little bit of attention on that one later on tonight. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with CJAD to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, all powered by Primetime Radio. Busy program, lots of good guests lined up. Michael Smith will join us later on in the program. We'll get the latest on the Carolina Hurricanes. Oh, it has been an interesting week for the Carolina Hurricanes. Some ups, some downs, some frustration. But I think that there's some positives on the horizon for the Hurricanes as well, and it starts at the top with their new ownership group and Tom Dundon taking over. I like that. Bob Duff will also join us. He is the author of our book of the month. He is the writer of The First Season, discussing and chronicling the first season, early days, and the forming of the National Hockey League a little bit after the 100th year celebration, but that's okay. The story is still worth telling and still quite interesting. A busy Friday night in the National Hockey League. We've got a full day on Saturday with lots of games on the go. We got Buffalo at Boston, Ottawa, Toronto. I don't know. Is it still the Battle of Ontario? I guess it technically is, because that's where the franchises are located, but not so much a battle. Nashville is in Montreal to take on the Canadiens. Once again, the return of PK Subban and other stories. Robyn Flynn covers the Canadiens for TSN 690 for The Athletic in Montreal. You can follow her on Twitter at Robyn Lisa Flynn, and she joins us now. Robyn, I imagine there is an awful lot of attention on this game because of PK Subban. Well, let's start there, because that will get an awful lot of attention from anyone.
Oh, yeah. This is the date that has been circled on Habs fans, PK Subban fans, everybody's calendars, because Nashville only comes to town once a year. So this is only the second time that PK has come back to the city. And obviously, this was the biggest trade since the Patrick Waugh trade for the Habs franchise. So this is something that is going to get talked about a lot for a long time. And there's a lot of people who are upset about that, to be honest. I've been hearing from a lot of Habs fans this week who are saying, get over it. The trade happened. It's over and done with. But I don't think that this is something that people are going to just get over and never talk about again. Like after the Habs traded Halak, those comparisons every time Halak came to town, the comparisons between Halak and Price, basically they only went away once Price proved that the Habs made the right decision there. And the Habs haven't yet proved that they made the right decision with that trade, with Weber being injured especially. That compounds things. But yeah, this is something it's not going anywhere. The conversation about PK Subban is here to stay.
Yeah, and that's a natural. When you have two prominent players like that traded for one another, that's going to be a comparison that will be made. It's impossible to judge the trade on who won, who lost until many years have gone by. But I think it is an indicator of bigger things in terms of the Canadiens and their organization. The PK Subban trade was a giant one, but there's also been a bunch of other moves, and it has resulted in a lot of frustration this year for the Montreal Canadiens in terms of what they have put on the ice and what they have been able to do and the number of games they've been able to win. And it's been disappointment since the Subban trade a summer ago, and I think that has only added to the frustration.
Oh, most definitely. There's obviously a lot of focus on PK Subban, but to be fair, they got a phenomenal player back in Shea Weber. It's not like they got hosed on that deal. But the ones that really stand out is sort of letting Andrei Markov walk for absolutely nothing when he has been a mainstay on the back end for the Habs for years and a massive contributor, especially on the power play, which has always sort of been the Habs' bread and butter. They had trouble scoring at 5-on-5, but they could always count on a strong power play. That hasn't been the case for the last couple of seasons. Losing a puck-moving defenseman like Andrei Markov obviously makes that worse. And then losing Alex Radulov to Dallas, not being able to convince him to stay in Montreal. That's a significant hit to your offense. So when you have players that usually step up, like your Max Pacioretty's and things like that, not being able to find the back of the net, well, you didn't really replace the offense. I know you trade for Jonathan Drouin. They were kind of hoping that he would be able to do that, but he's still sort of learning a new position, being forced to play center. He hasn't been able to contribute. And usually the Habs can get away with not scoring because they aren't giving up goals. But Carey Price hasn't had the best season. It's not to say he's had a terrible season. He started out pretty rough, but he kind of, pulled into form a little bit later on. But unless Carey Price is playing superhuman Vezina award-winning hockey, the Habs don't play well. You can't really expect somebody to do that year in, year out.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's a completely unrealistic to think that you can win every game. Or you've got Philippe Danault, who is out of the lineup, or you've got Andrew Shaw, who has been out of the lineup, and you've got Jonathan Drouin, who you're trying to convert into perhaps playing another position, and you've got Thomas Plekanec, who is not the offensive force he once was, but he is still making an awful lot of money, and that leads me to the decision and conclusion that Marc Bergevin has made a hell of a mess of the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, he definitely has, and ultimately, he has to answer for his moves. And the big one was obviously Markov, and Subban, and then the not being able to pull the trigger on Markov and Radulov. I have to assume that he's, on thin ice right now, because not only are the Habs, not in the hunt for a playoff spot, but they're not even showing signs of life. Their farm team, the Laval Rocket, are playing one of the worst seasons in Habs AHL history. So it's not even like there's light at the end of the tunnel. This team is mediocre and trending towards more mediocrity. It's not like there's light at the end of the tunnel. This is going to be a great draft year, and they're going to get a top 5 pick, and they're going to be able to turn things around. At least a few years ago when the Habs were cellar dwellers, they managed to get the 3rd overall pick. They get an Alex Galchenyuk. And they were at least playing entertaining hockey. That season, I remember very well, they were at least in those hockey games. They were losing them by a goal. This season, my goodness, it's hard to watch the Habs sometimes. They're just not playing a super-duper entertaining brand of hockey. So you have to just get amped up about when other teams are coming to town. When you're looking at, they're playing the Colorado Avalanche next week. That's a really fun team to watch. They got the Nashville Predators in town this week. They're going to be playing in Vegas next weekend. You're more looking at the opponents. I think a lot of Habs fans have sort of sealed the deal at this point. Habs aren't making the playoffs. Hope is lost. And it would be nice if there was something to look forward to, but it really doesn't seem to be the case right now. And I honestly don't think that Marc Bergevin should still have a job at the end of the season unless he does something to suggest that he does have a handle on this team. But I just don't see that happening. I can't see him making any significant move at the trade deadline unless he's going to bring in another, Steve Ott or John Scott type player, because that seems to be his favorite kind of hockey player.
Robyn Flynn is covering the Montreal Canadiens for TSN 690 for the Athletic Montreal. Follow her on Twitter at Robyn Lisa Flynn. And I'm with you. I thought that the PK Subban trade, and I know we're kind of churning up history a little bit, but it's worthy of it. The PK Subban trade, I thought, was the beginning of the end for the Montreal Canadiens, because it seems like the league is changing and evolving, but the Montreal Canadiens organization has not. And Marc Bergevin's vision, it appears to me, is I want a certain type of team that can play a certain way, but that is not the way the National Hockey League is moving and evolving. It is becoming more of a speed game and a skill game. Some smaller players are having thriving careers because of it, and we are seeing more emphasis on skill and talent on display. And when you go out at the trade deadline a year ago and you pick up Steve Ott and you pick up Dwight King and you pick up Andreas Martinson, 3 guys who are no longer in the league, you got to question as to what your vision for this team is moving forward.
Yeah, Marc Bergevin tends to like to bring in guys that were similar to how he played in the NHL, sort of those character guys, the ones that are popular in the room, but they don't tend to really contribute. And, he's sort of famous for saying it's hard to bring in those top 6 guys because, the NHL is not PlayStation, and well, other GMs seem to figure out a way to do it. So, if you're having trouble, maybe you should play a little bit more PlayStation, practice making those big moves. I don't know. But he definitely doesn't seem to have his pulse on the new NHL, and that's a problem. The idea of bringing in a Shea Weber, yeah, he's a great player, but he still has 8 years left on his contract, and we're already seeing sort of the effects of his age, how he's getting injured more frequently. He's out of the lineup right now. He hasn't played in a long time. And your PK Subbans, while they may be defensive risks, the risk versus reward ratio there is just so much higher. Obviously, he's going to, make mistakes and turn over the puck a bit more because he has the puck more than most defensemen. He's creating opportunities, those outlet passes. He's moving the puck. that is something that you need in today's NHL. You need your blue line to be contributing to your offense. And if you can't see that, you're not going to be able to create scoring opportunities. And that's definitely an issue for this team. They cannot score, and they haven't figured out how to score, which is a problem when you mention you're bringing in your Martinsons and your Kings. These guys are not going to help you. And I don't really think the Habs are going to do anything big at the deadline, which is a mistake because they have all this cap space. I sort of was under the impression that they were waiting for the deadline to make that big move to bring in your, Tavares or something. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point. And I'm kind of hoping Marc Bergevin doesn't do anything super big because, is he going to mess up this team further? I don't really have much faith in him.
I'm not sure how you can mess it up much further because it looks like they're trying to convert players from one position to another. They have a certain type of player as opposed to ones that can be successful in the current National Hockey League. I'm not sure what else you can do, but I'm not sure what is next. Well, I do have an idea of what is next for the Montreal Canadiens. It starts with a complete cleaning of house, and I'm not just talking about the general manager. I think the coach would probably have to fall out of by default, but I'm talking organization, top to bottom, side to side. I mean, you need a total house cleaning, and you need someone at the top to start as your president of hockey operations and build a hockey department, because what is there is clearly not working under the direction of Marc Bergevin.
Oh, absolutely. And it goes all the way down to the bottom, even in the AHL as well. That coaching staff hasn't been able to really do much with the Laval Rocket going back to St. John's and when they were in Hamilton. If the average person was consistently not showing success or even trending towards success in their job, they'd be fired. And instead, these guys are getting pats on the back and saying, great job, you get to keep your job. That's not how it works. And to be honest, I think a big part of it is the fact that the Montreal Canadiens don't even really need to win. People are going to talk about them. They're going to sell out hockey games. And if people don't show up, there's, a lineup of people waiting to buy their tickets. It's a problem. The fact that the fans just eat it up no matter what the product. And you're seeing other organizations just change the way they regard their fans. That letter that the New York Rangers sent out this week saying, we're sorry, we have to build for the future, means we're going to have to trade away some guys you like. But, that was a really, really gutsy move on their part. But I think people appreciate that level of transparency. And that's something that doesn't exist with the Habs. They regard the fans and the media as, something to be disdained, something they don't need, they don't like. And it needs to eventually catch up with them, I would think. You can't just expect people to eat up and buy a product that isn't great. At a certain point, people are going to say, no, I don't like what you're selling.
I completely agree with it. We saw that, and I know Montreal fans will love to hear this, but using the Toronto Maple Leafs as a comparison, they got to a similar point as well, and it was finally when luxury boxes weren't necessarily being sold out on a consistent basis that things started to turn in the right direction. And a similar type of thing, not to the same degree, started with Montreal a number of years ago. There were empty seats, there weren't complete sellouts, and that gets the attention of ownership quicker than anything else ever does.
Absolutely. And I think really Habs fans are extremely polarized right now. And again, it goes back to that PK Subban trade almost 2 years ago. People split into factions, the team PK and the team Habs people. And it's very, very angry. I made a joke on Twitter yesterday about hoping PK Subban has a good game because I have him in my fantasy league and I'm going head to head with my fiance this week in fantasy hockey, so I need him to play well. And people lost it. Get over it. Why do you always bring up PK? And it was like, well, PK is coming to town, so the story kind of writes itself. But people are just very, very angry and sensitive about it. And it's a little nonsensical. PK Subban donated all that money to the Children's Hospital here in Montreal. So he brought a bunch of his Nashville Predators to the hospital yesterday to go visit sick kids, and people were angry about it.
Yeah.
I don't understand this hatred towards PK Subban that even when he does good things, people just get angry and it's all publicity and he's doing it for show. Who cares? If he makes these kids' days. Who cares if there's a camera on his face? At the end of the day, I don't know how it affects people's lives, but it's very tense, and no Habs fans can seem to agree on anything. Every bar I go to watch a game, people are just yelling and arguing, and it always comes back to PK Subban. This is the trade that will be discussed for years, generations to come.
Yeah, and that's the part that's being missed, is that it doesn't have to be PK or the team, and that's the key part that PK Subban was making a point of as well. Robyn Flynn from TSN 690, The Athletic Montreal, at Robyn Lisa Flynn is how you follow her on Twitter. Great discussion, Robyn. I really enjoyed it, and I hope we can have you back again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, Robyn Flynn from TSN 690 and The Athletic in Montreal. It will be a bit of a circus, of course, because that's what happens in Montreal with most things. That's a really important point that Robyn brought up, is that it seems as though it's either Team PK or Team Montreal Canadiens, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. And that's the part that was sadly missed by the Montreal Canadiens organization, and why PK Subban is no longer part of that group. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports Twitter and Instagram handles. Man, this first hour is flying by. Lots to get to before the top of the hour. We'll squeeze in some stories from last night. We'll look ahead to games coming up today. In the next hour, Michael Smith will join us, the latest on the Carolina Hurricanes. Bob Duff as well, the author of our book of the month, The First Season, all coming up on the program. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with CJAD to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com. We are streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app. You can download it now at the App Store. Also live on Facebook, on Periscope, on YouTube Live. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our podcast through iTunes and through iHeartRadio. That includes our little Saturday podcast, little Wednesday hockey talk. We drop it in the middle of the week just to keep the conversation going. There's always all kinds of good stories that are happening in the NHL. So instead of having such a big gap between our weekend programs on Saturdays and Sundays, beginning at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, I'd like to drop in the little Saturday podcast with a few topics that we usually touch on and get some attention. And I'm still captivated by that discussion with Robyn Flynn from the Athletic Montreal and TSN 690 about the Montreal Canadiens in the last segment, hit on a lot of really good points about the Canadiens, the organization, the so-called vision for the team and moving forward, and where they go from here. It did all start with the PK Subban, and as she mentioned, it seems to be you either are in favor of PK Subban or you view it as you're in favor of the Montreal Canadiens. And that was the whole point of PK Subban, is that it didn't have to be both. Because he is a large personality, that was offensive to many. But why wouldn't you want someone who is dynamic and personable and also as involved as they are, as big a personality as they are, as involved in your team, with your community? Oh, that's drawing attention to yourself. No, it's as much as some people like to think that it's drawing attention to yourself, it's drawing attention to the team. And in terms of his charitable endeavors, oh, why does he need to have all those cameras? Well, he doesn't always. But it also draws attention to those charities. That's how you generate interest. That's how you generate money in terms of fundraising, is by drawing attention to the cause. It's such a misunderstood message at times. But in what the Montreal Canadiens and what their vision is for the team, it's exasperating for Canadiens fans who have a level of expectation and a level of excellence, understandably so, but it also seems as though it hasn't allowed the team and allowed a lot of fans to evolve to the current state of the National Hockey League. Robyn talked about it, and I agree with her. Some of the choices and decisions in terms of player personnel have been absolutely horrible. Oh, let's get Andrew Shaw from the Chicago Blackhawks. Oh, let's give him a 6-year contract for a marginal third-line player. So the big trade deadline acquisitions for the Montreal Canadiens a year ago, Steve Ott, Dwight King, Andreas Martinson. 3 guys who are no longer in the league, and had everybody going, what on earth are you bringing in these players for? But yeah, that's what they did a year ago. What lies in store over the next 2 weeks for the Montreal Canadiens? Oh, well, there's been so much talk about trading Max Pacioretty for weeks now. Okay, so a perennial goal scorer who was the wrong choice for captain because he is feeling the burden of that city. He is not a French Canadian. He's an American. He is feeling the burden. But no, that was who Marc Bergevin and the Canadiens decided they wanted to be captain. Another poor decision. And there have been more and more. Let's get Jordy Ben in here. That'll help us out. The Carl Alsner signing is getting hammered. You know, not a bad defenseman. A good shore it up kind of defenseman. Not a number 1 or not a number 2 guy, but a good defenseman. But got signed to a pretty big contract for 5 years. Let's bring in Mark Streit. I think he might be able to help us out on the power play. Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah, that'll be good. Oh, no Radulov? Oh, that's no problem. Well, we got Jonathan Drouin, though. Oh, we had to give up our number 1 defensive prospect, who seems to be thriving pretty well in Tampa to do it. But we got him. Oh, no Radulov. Oh, no Andrei Markov. Oh, let's sign Ales Hemsky. I think that'll help us out. Not even close. Eric Engels on Sportsnet.ca has got a good analysis of what's gone on over the last couple of seasons with the Montreal Canadiens under the leadership, pains me just to phrase it that way, under the leadership of Marc Bergevin at Sportsnet.ca. Lots more to get into from games on Friday night, a busy Saturday. We'll preview some of the games coming up and some other good stories as well from the National Hockey League. Busy Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with CJAD to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you miss the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with SeatGiant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
What a first hour that flew by. A lot of good hockey talk and discussion. We've got more of it coming up in hour number 2 of the program. We'll glance back at a busy Friday night in the National Hockey League with some games that had you going, what? And we'll look ahead to what's coming up on Saturday. We got 9 more. We got 9 games on Sunday. We got morning hockey at St. Louis on Sunday, but we'll focus on that tomorrow. Coming up this hour, Michael Smith from the Carolina Hurricanes will join us. We'll get the latest on the Canes. Been quite a week for the Hurricanes. Some ups, some downs, some good, some positive. This is the start of some transition for this team, I think, and in the right direction and a good direction going forward. I'm looking forward to that. Also this hour, Bob Duff will join us. He is a writer, author of our book of the month called The First Season, detailing how the National Hockey League came together. Yeah, it's a little after the 100 years anniversary, but so what? It's an interesting story. Bob Duff will be with us to talk about that. And as mentioned, it is a busy Saturday with lots to get into. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis live every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app. Join us every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, live at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And of course, because it's Saturday, we are looking for your Dog of the Day nominations. We like to recognize great dogs and the people who own them every week. So send us a photo via Twitter, via Instagram, using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Nominate your dog. Tell us the story of how you two came together. We like to honor great and loyal dogs. We put the photo up on our website, up on our Facebook page, and we do this every Saturday. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day because dogs rule. So we're into the weekend. It's for all intents and purposes, it's the middle of February, full plate of games, lots going on. Before we dive too deep into what's going on today, and we did talk a lot about some of the games on the schedule in our last hour, like Montreal and Nashville. some of the games that took place last night, some of the stories this week, it has been a busy and active week in the National Hockey League with a lot of teams, some interesting occurrences, some interesting happenings over the last few days, like the New York Rangers taking a knee on the season. They are not planning on conceding games, but to publicly say in a letter to their fans, this ain't our year. This isn't the one. We had far greater hopes at the start of the season. We thought we had put together a team that could compete, but we recognize now that is not happening for us this year. They're not a ridiculous number of points out of a playoff position as it currently stands, but you know what? We recognize what the competition is. We see that we have deficiencies. We see that we need to make changes. There will be changes to our roster. There will be popular players on our team who will not be with us in the future. We're changing our focus and our emphasis from this season to the future. We are building for the future. Change is coming. Here. Welcome. Thank you for this. Good for you. It is about time we had more of this kind of honesty with NHL teams. Your fans, some of them are not going to be thrilled with some of the choices, some of the decisions that are made and what's coming ahead, but good for the New York Rangers for having the cojones to make that decision and to be upfront about it. If we had more teams with this, we'd have a better league. Good for you. Now, they had a nice comeback victory against the Calgary Flames on Friday. The players showed that they have spirit, and there were discussions amongst teammates that said, yeah, we're not willing to lay down. We still have some belief. We still have some spirit. We still have some fight. If things can play our way, we might still be able to make into that playoffs. Well, good for you. You should be full of that kind of vinegar. I think it's a good sign for the organization. I think it's good that the players didn't lay down and accept their fate. I think it's also going to help them relax in that the expectations are realistic within that team. Rangers were non-committal on the future of Alain Vigneault. And you know what? That's understandable. They're a team that's going to go through some evaluation over the next few months. And having to pay them a couple of years worth of coaching contract is not going to impact them one way or the other. But I think it's taking the stress off the players. I think it takes the pressure off the players. Doesn't mean they're going to lay down. In fact, probably quite the opposite. They're going to be a little more invigorated. They're going to be a little more freewheeling. And some of the guys who are going to be out on the ice are going to be looking to up their stock for a possible new trade destination. That's a reality. Going to be a lot of speculation, going to be a lot of talk and discussion about what happens. But it's just not realistic for Jeff Gorton to also turn over the entire roster over the next few months. There will be changes, but that also takes a little bit of time. Will there be moves prior to the trade deadline? Yeah, absolutely. Because they have players that are going to be good rentals for other teams that are going to the postseason. See Rick Nash, Michael Grabner, perhaps others. You want to get back into contention as quickly as you can, but you don't want to start moving at light speed to try to get it done. You have to be smart. You want to retool. You want to get back into contention. You want to move as quickly as possible, but you got to be pragmatic at the same time. You can't just say, well, we need new players. Let's get rid of these ones and get new ones. Because it's not as simple as 2 clicks to pick up and drop as it is in your fantasy league. There might be other opportunities as well that aren't visible right now. Say there's a team that thinks they're going to the playoffs, but they fall just short. There's a team that might have an opportunity to do a deal with. Say there's a team that does make it into the postseason, but exits quickly, like in the first round or maybe the second round, but had higher expectations. Then maybe there's another team that you have an opportunity to make a trade or make a deal with. That's good. There's been little whispers from some other teams that realize or actually acknowledging that their season hasn't been what they've expected, but nobody has come out and declared so the same way that the New York Rangers have. Good for them. I think that is a positive for the team. They understand and they're being honest and open and transparent with their fans. And that's what teams should be. This is a victory. It's a small one, but it's a victory. For us to get that kind of information and acknowledgement to the reality of the world from the team itself. Chicago Blackhawks general manager Stan Bowman said in an interview the other day, well, you know what? I know we've been buyers in the past at the trade deadline, but it's unlikely that the Hawks this year will be buyers at the deadline. You want to read between the lines? Stan Bowman appears to be pretty realistic about the Chicago Blackhawks' chances of making the postseason this year. Entering play on Saturday, Hawks are 8 points behind Minnesota for the final wild card spot in the West. 8 points back. Now, they also have 3 teams between themselves and the Minnesota Wild. Is that being realistic that, maybe we won't be buyers at the deadline? That's smart. That's making the right choice. That's thinking about your team in the broader long-term sense, the way general managers should be. Coaches want to win every game. General managers have to realize that you are not going to win every game. You have to figure out a way to win the majority of games and win playoff series and win a Stanley Cup. I was a little worried about Chicago at the start of the season, but I thought they would have enough to get into the postseason. I thought they would make it. I thought they could get there. It's not going to happen. 8 points out behind Minnesota. They've got the last spot right now. And there's 3 teams ahead of them. It's just not going to happen. I feel a little bit like we're in an election right now and we're declaring teams as in or out like they're winners. With 68% of the season complete, our NHL election desk is declaring that the Chicago Blackhawks will not make the postseason this year due to these factors. Player turnout has not been as prolific as we had expected at this time, and we did not get as many goals as the opposition, and that's why we don't see them as making it. But no, I don't. Ottawa Senators, also not really saying in the same explicit and direct manner that the New York Rangers did, but yeah, we're kind of saying that maybe this one isn't going to be our year. Maybe it might not be happening for us this year, that after 53 games, we've got 47 points. Our goal differential is 41, and everybody in the Eastern Conference is ahead of us except the Buffalo Sabres. Well, you know what? Maybe this might not be our year. Friday, the Sens announced that general manager Pierre Dorion has been given a 3-year contract extension and the support necessary to make changes to turn this team into a Stanley Cup winner. That is the number one goal, according to Ottawa Senators owner Eugene Melnyk. Also, very quietly on Friday, CEO Tom Anselmi left the team. He was the guy in charge of getting the arena deal done. Now, they got the initial approval that they're going to be the ones to be negotiated with. I mean, it's only going to take another year, maybe a year and a half or so to get this deal done, to negotiate the deal. So then you've got to build the building. And that doesn't just happen overnight. That's 3 years conservatively. So Ottawa's 4 years away from getting a new building. It's clearly a government town, isn't it? But good news for Pierre Dorion and the Sens, I believe that it's good news for them as well. The goal of every NHL team, get into the playoffs, win the Stanley Cup. That's the message being pushed out in front. Okay, that's great. And Sens have also said that they will be doing it with more resources that will make that objective easier. More of a commitment to scouting, to drafting, to development. Okay? Commitment is one thing. We need the dollars to back up that commitment. Those are all good things. Changes that are needed for the Ottawa Senators. More improvement in those areas. You also have to decide how big a payroll you're going to have. And the number one question for the Ottawa Senators moving forward over the next couple of months, maybe longer, if they are serious about being a cup contender, is going to be finding out whether your captain, Erik Karlsson, is going to be there while you're trying to do that, or whether he's going to be somewhere else. Whole situation has kind of quieted down over the last little while, but it's going to get plenty of attention before too long. Because as the teams get eliminated from the postseason, and as we move into the summer months, and as we get closer to July 1st, when Erik Karlsson becomes eligible to sign a new contract, it's going to heat up again. And after watching the breakaway game-winning goal from Mike Hoffman the other night too, I think he's got to be a piece of the puzzle as well. His name has been out there for weeks in terms of trade speculation. He's got what you need to win in the NHL. He's a young player. He's talented. He's got skill. He's got speed. He can score goals. Making him part of a trade that helps a team get better, that's a big ask. He's fast. He can score. I want that on the team. That is what you are going to need to be a successful team moving forward. He's got it. Why are you trading it away? So we can get more assets. Okay. But you got to be able to win that trade. You haven't added to your commitment for more scouting, including pro scouting yet. And that's what you're going to need if you're going to make that deal. I would be very leery of making that deal. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Looking for your Dog of the Day nominations, hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Sens and Toronto this evening at Air Canada Centre. It's still the Battle of Ontario. Is it still quite the rivalry it used to be? I don't know. I'm not sure. Oh, and if you missed it earlier, the Toronto Maple Leafs have officially unveiled their Stadium Series uniforms for the game they will play outdoors March 3rd against the Washington Capitals. It's a whiteout. There is an awful lot of white. The sweaters, the socks, the pants, the gloves. It's white, but there's a little bit of blue trim around the maple leaf and a couple of stripes. There's a lot of white. It's a thumbs down for me. I don't know. I think we've gone too far with the white pants and the white gloves myself. I like they'll barely be visible. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles. We'll talk a little Carolina Hurricanes with Michael Smith right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with CJAD to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with Seat Giant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Looking for your Dog of the Day nomination still. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Send them to us via Twitter, via Instagram. We like to recognize great dogs every Saturday, and we do it through our Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day contest. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Before the hour is out, Bob Duff will join us to talk about his book, The First Season, detailing how the NHL came together more than 100 years ago. Happy to welcome back to the program Michael Smith, who covers the Carolina Hurricanes, web producer and writer. You can follow him on Twitter at @MSmithCanes. Hurricanes with a big 4-1 victory over the Vancouver Canucks on Friday night. Michael, it's been quite a week. In fact, not even quite a week for the Carolina Hurricanes, going back a few days to when head coach Bill Peters said, well, this isn't good enough. We can't put that group out again. You had the close game against Philadelphia, but then everything seemed to come together pretty well for Carolina against Vancouver last night.
Yeah, it definitely did. And it was when the Hurricanes, I think, pretty desperately needed, just considering really how tight the Metropolitan Division standings are and continue to be, as you know, you have a handful of teams there jockeying for a wild card spot. And the Hurricanes, coming off a disappointing stretch of hockey where they really struggled to score, especially at 5-on-5. And so, yesterday to get 3 in the first period, all at even strength too, was a big boost, and a big 2 points against the club that had been in action the night before. So it was important for the Hurricanes to get off to a good start. They did just that. Scott Darling played well. It was a pretty complete effort. Now they're going to need to follow it up against the Colorado Avalanche, who are already in town waiting for the Hurricanes. So another big challenge ahead tonight.
Yeah, and a couple of things we look ahead. The goal by Sebastian Aho, he had an assist as well. That goal he scored was as pretty a goal as Sebastian Aho has ever scored for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, it sure was. And, a great pass, looking up the ice by Jacob Slavin. He's had a few of those this year, where he's had the puck in his own end, and he'll be able to find a forward that slips through the defense. And Sebastian Aho had a perfect spot there in between the two defenders and was able to open up Jacob Markstrom and slip the puck through his 5-hole. Really a pretty goal. He's got 20 on the season now, and I can see him getting to 30 here in his second year in the NHL. He's been the Hurricanes' best player probably throughout the whole season. He didn't get in the goal column until November, just as he did last year. But once he got there, he's been consistent. He's been a consistent scorer, even coming off the concussion and the lower body injury he sustained there in mid-January. He's been excellent for the Hurricanes, and if he continues that, the Hurricanes are going to find success down the stretch of the season, and Sebastian Aho in his second year in the NHL is going to continue to score. I think he gets to 30 by the end of the year.
Have you, or has anyone in the organization considered switching his calendar and pulling out the paper copy of the month of October, just so he thinks that the season starts in November? Because that's the funniest thing, is that for the second consecutive year, he was a slow starter.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, and that was the funny thing. The hope was that, maybe his rookie season, he had a bit of time to really just get acclimated to the league, get acclimated to his new team, his teammates, being in North America. And the thought was that maybe this year that wouldn't happen, and for whatever reason it did. But the thought was that when he got one, they would keep coming, and that's exactly what happened. And it wasn't that, he wasn't getting opportunities. I think that's when you start to worry, is when a guy like him, or even a guy like Jeff Skinner now, who you look at, hasn't been as consistent of a scorer as you would like, but he's still getting opportunities. And for whatever reason, for Sebastian Aho, in October, it just wasn't going in the net. But once he got that one, once he tossed the proverbial monkey off his back, he's been very good for the Hurricanes all season long.
Yeah, he certainly has. And you mentioned goaltending from Scott Darling against the Vancouver Canucks on Friday night. I don't know if it was just the self-inflicted pressure that he has put on himself to come in after being acquired by the Chicago Blackhawks, signs a 4-year contract. I wonder if that, as much as anything, has been his biggest obstacle to overcome.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of factors. I think that probably is part of it. I think too, the transition in going from being a backup in this league to being a reliable number one starter, I think takes time. And it's a new city, it's a new team. For a guy like Scott Darling, who grew up watching the Chicago Blackhawks and being a fan of them, I mean, that was pretty much a dream come true scenario for him. To play for the Blackhawks and to have success with them as well, and then to come to Carolina in a new setting, a new role, being counted on as the number one starter, I think takes time, and I think it probably has weighed mentally on him a bit. And the performance last night was solid. He didn't face a ton of quantity or quality, really. He made 21 saves on 22 shots. The Canucks, I think, only had 4 shots in the third period, so he didn't see a lot last night, and part of that is due to the way the Hurricanes played in front of him. They played a great game in front of him, defensively, making sure they were boxing out on the rebounds, keeping the crease clear in front of him, basically making sure he could see anything the Canucks were throwing at him. So he had a solid performance last night, and I think the Hurricanes are going to need him down the stretch of the season. I think for the Hurricanes to be a playoff team, Scott Darling is going to have to give them performances like he had last night.
And it's not that he's necessarily going to play the majority of games, but he is going to have to spell off Cam Ward a little bit. Maybe it does become a tandem system for the Carolina Hurricanes going down the stretch, but he's got to give Cam Ward a bit of a break, because you could see that he was getting a little bit worn down.
Yeah, the Hurricanes relied heavily upon him there in the second half of December, heading into January, when they went on a little bit of a run, and Cam was a big part of that. But again, you look historically at his numbers when they do turn to him quite a bit. There might be a dip. So the Hurricanes are going to need both goaltenders really down the stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if they went with Cam Ward tonight in the second half of a back-to-back. They've done it every time this season. I don't see why tonight would be any different, but you never know. But the Hurricanes are going to need both of them. I think there's still 7 back-to-back games on the schedule here in the last couple months of the season. They're going to need both goaltenders. They're going to need Ward to play well as he has recently, and they're going to need Scott Darling to put forth more efforts like we saw last night. We saw a great effort from him in Washington there in early January, and then at home against Columbus in mid-December. He's had these games where you'd like to think he starts to get on a run a little bit. Maybe last night at that game.
Michael Smith is with us, producer, writer for the Carolina Hurricanes. At @MSmithCanes is how you follow him on Twitter. That was the Canes last night against Vancouver. As you mentioned, it's Colorado, the opposition, against the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday evening. In addition to all the basics of keeping the net clear in front of their goaltender, I suspect that it's the Colorado Avalanche speed that is most concerning to the Carolina Hurricanes right now. They've cooled off a little bit in terms of their one-loss record, but that speed and skill that team has on display is something to behold.
Yeah, they certainly have cooled off a little bit, but I remember the game the Hurricanes played against them in Colorado earlier this year, and it was sort of this high-scoring back-and-forth affair. The Hurricanes don't really like to play those types of games. They like, really more of what was seen last night, where they suffocate the opposition defensively and then take advantage of whatever mistakes, turnovers they may have. I mean, you look really at the fourth goal, it was Jeff Skinner forcing a turnover in the neutral zone, and Justin Williams takes it in and scores. That's the game the Hurricanes like to play, is just playing this suffocating defensive game and then turning the puck the other way in transition and taking advantage of those opportunities. So, I think we're in for a good game tonight. The Hurricanes last week were in a similar situation where they played games on consecutive nights at home. And the second night, of course, the team had been waiting for them the night prior. Colorado's been in Raleigh for a couple of days. They've had a chance to settle in. I know they practiced at PNC Arena a couple of days ago. Got a chance, to take in the game last night. So they know what to expect. The Hurricanes know what to expect of them. I think we see a pretty good hockey game tonight, a pretty fast hockey game tonight, and a big 2 points on the line for the Hurricanes, who really can't afford to squander any more opportunities at this point in the season.
Yeah, they are fighting for a playoff spot for sure. And the other thing I want to ask you about just before I let you go is, since being confirmed as the new majority owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, I really like a lot of what I'm hearing out of Tom Dundon. That I love the idea that he invited fans down to the lower bowl at the game against Ottawa a little while ago. He's trying to expedite getting a new scoreboard. He is trying to create a better environment for fans and give them more reasons to come out to the games. I like his attitude and his approach to the whole process and building this franchise.
Yeah, he's really hit the ground running. And even before, he was officially introduced, he was meeting with players, meeting with coaching staff, meeting with front office, just trying to get ideas. And then once he was officially introduced, all these ideas that, he had really been thinking about for the last month or so, he's put them into action, and he's tried different things. And as you mentioned, bringing fans down to the lower bowl. He wanted to create this boisterous playoff-like atmosphere and put fans as close to the ice as possible. That was something he wanted to try. Little things that you notice, like now the players, there's a new entrance. They come onto the ice from the corner there, and they walk past, I would say, 40 or 50 fans that get to come down before the game and in the intermission. So there are these little things that he's trying to improve the fan experience. And I think over the summer especially, I think you're going to see some leaps and bounds just in terms of what this organization does. And come October of 2018, I think you might see just a completely new fan experience, which, as you mentioned, he's also trying to expedite a new video board. So there are all these things that he's come in, all these ideas that he's had. He's very passionate, and he wants to improve things immediately. He wants to get better every day, both on and off the ice. So it's been a nice energy around the office. I know, members of the team, players, front office have all gotten a chance to interact and speak with him and kind of just let him know what they need to be successful. So it's been an exciting time around Raleigh, and it should be an exciting offseason for the team as well.
That's awesome. Michael Smith from the Carolina Hurricanes, at @MSmithCanes to follow him on Twitter. Good discussion as always, Michael. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael Smith from the Carolina Hurricanes. I love that enthusiasm and that energy and that approach. Like, we got to give people a reason to come in here. Can't just expect people to come in. Winning team is part of it, but fan experience is becoming more and more important to franchises succeeding at the box office. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles. A little discussion of our book of the month, the first season with author Bob Duff, coming up in our next segment. We'll get you set for a busy Saturday in the National Hockey League before the hour is out as well. Saturday edition, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with much more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with CJAD to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. It's Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. The Saturday edition will be back again tomorrow at Sunday, our regular time, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Tomorrow, of course, our regular visit with Stephen Laidlaw, the fantasy expert from DobberHockey.com, the managing editor. Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, help for you in your fantasy hockey pool tomorrow. Last call for the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominees for this weekend. We do it every Saturday. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us your nominee for Dog of the Day. We like to pick a winner, like to recognize great dogs and their owners every Saturday. The photo will go up on our website. Will go up in the gallery on our Facebook page as well. Just our way of recognizing great dogs. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photograph via Twitter or via Instagram. Get you set for a big Saturday in the National Hockey League before the top of the hour. Pleased to welcome to the program now the author of our book of the month. This is something we started doing at the beginning of the year. We select a book every month and kind of feature it, something that's interesting of the hockey history. This month's book is The First Season. The author is Bob Duff. You can follow him on Twitter. Ask the Duffer. It details the very beginnings of the National Hockey League that is now more than 100 years old. Bob, thanks for the time today. We appreciate it. This is a fascinating topic, and how the history and all the pieces of coming together and how the league survived a whole bunch of turmoil in the early going as well.
Yeah, I mean, even as someone myself who's delved a lot into the history of the game, as I got deeper and deeper into this, I just kept unearthing more and more things that I didn't know, and it was just fascinating to see, not only the turmoil that went on, but, how close there came to not being a second season, and in reality, the plan was really that the NHL was supposed to just be a one-year stopgap measure.
And I'm sure a lot of people don't know that. I have not read the book, and I do that on purpose because I want to discover it through you a little bit, as our listeners will as well. But there were a bunch of things that came together early on, from what I have read about it, that there was also a bit of a, we want to do this to get rid of somebody else and get him out of the way.
Basically, the whole premise behind the NHL, there was a league called the National Hockey Association that had been around for about a decade. And through a number of reasons, it was in dire straits. With World War I underway, most of the top young players were off in the trenches of Europe fighting the war, and there was a dearth of hockey talent available. So that was a problem. And then the problem that they decided to address in this unique fashion was a fellow named Eddie Livingstone, who owned the Toronto franchise in the NHA. And he was a guy who kind of just, if you said zig, he zagged. He just was kind of the guy who was going to do the opposite of what the group wanted to do. And it was, completely different from what today's NHL is like, where you have 31 owners that tend to be all on board with everything they do, and you don't really hear an owner speak ill of the league. But this guy was always trying to fight his own battles and trying to do it his way. And the rest of the owners just got tired of having to put up with this and decided that first they approached him about selling his team, and when he refused, they folded the NHA. But in reality, what they were doing is they met about a week to 10 days later, the other owners, and they'd found a loophole in the league's bylaws that said they could just quit the league and start a new league. So that's what they did, and they started a new league minus Eddie Livingstone and found new owners for the Toronto team.
Always lawyers getting in the way of things, making things happen, even as far back as the beginnings of the National Hockey League. Oh, yes. But there were other challenges as well that the league faced in terms of trying to get going. You mentioned that it was World War I. They were trying to find players and generating enough interest in fans as well to have them come over to the new league.
Yeah, as was the case with other sports like Major League Baseball, there was a debate in the public as to whether was this a necessary industry during a time of war. So, hockey wasn't certain they were even going to be allowed to play at one point because of that. And it was decided that, forms of entertainment were good for morale. So they opted to keep professional hockey going. But then, as we talked about already, the players, there was very few players. If you look at the average age in the first year of the NHL, the vast majority of the players were in their 30s, because the way the draft rules worked in Canada for the war is if you were married, you couldn't be drafted. So generally, most of the players in the NHL that year were older married men, and a few of the younger guys who were in the league actually did get drafted, and one of them headed off to join the war in mid-season. So there was definitely a hard time finding quality talent, and because of that, people weren't anxious to spend money to watch, because it said it was the best league in the world, but really most of the best players in the world were doing something else. They were fighting a war.
Wow. Bob Duff is our guest. He is the author of The First Season, our highlighted book of the month. You can get a sample chapter available through Amazon. You can click through on our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, to examine for The First Season from Bob Duff. Now, how long a season did they play in the initial year?
The plan was for 22 games, but as we talked about, there was much turmoil, and one of the problems they ran into quickly about 2 weeks into the season, the Westmount Arena, which was home to both of the Montreal teams in the league, the Canadiens and the Wanderers, burnt to the ground. So the only rink available in Montreal was the Jubilee rink, which sat about 3,000 people. And from what I've been able to determine, was a half to two-thirds the size in terms of ice surface as to what the NHL plays on now, a 200 by 85-foot rink. So it really was a bandbox. And the Wanderers, although most people believe they just used it as an excuse to fold the team because they were losing so much money, they decided just to quit. And the Canadiens, who, as we know, are still around today and one of the most glorious franchises in not only hockey, but in professional sport, they came very close to giving up the ghost too, but eventually they had to borrow uniforms and for a game until they had new uniforms made, because everything got burned up in the fire. They borrowed equipment from the other teams and opted to keep going, playing in this tiny little rink that certainly wasn't suited for professional hockey.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that they wanted to get rid of the Toronto owner, Eddie Livingstone. Did they start another team in Toronto right away?
They didn't right away. The original plan was they were hoping Quebec would be the fourth team. There was two teams in Montreal. There was the Ottawa Senators, and then there was a debate as to even whether there was going to be enough players for four teams at first, and then they decided they needed four teams because it just made sense from a logistical standpoint. When you have three teams, that means one team's not playing all the time. So they wanted to be able to have 2 games a night. So by having an even number of teams, that worked out better for scheduling. So after Quebec decided they weren't going to, because they couldn't find anyone willing to financially back the franchise, they started a team in Toronto. And this is where the legal stuff you talked about, the lawyers, this is where it really got into their hands, because the arena company that owned the rink that burned down, the Westmount Arena, also owned Mutual Street Arena in Toronto, and they were given the Toronto franchise. And for some bizarre reason, all the players that had played for Eddie Livingstone suddenly were available to play for this team. Now, Livingstone argued they were under contract to him, And that was the first of many lawsuits he launched. And actually, the NHL and Livingstone spent about a decade in court fighting each other. And this was the start of it because, they legally, how can you take players that were under contract to one team and put them on another team? It was just one of the many bizarre episodes of that first season.
Sounds like a whole bunch of really interesting stories in the beginnings of the National Hockey League. The name of the book is The First Season. The author is Bob Duff. At Ask the Duffer is how you follow him on Twitter. Bob, I appreciate the time today and look forward to learning more and reading this book in the days ahead. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Bob Duff, the author of The First Season, how the National Hockey League came to in its beginning stages, and I find it quite humorous and fascinating that there were so many lawyers involved right from the beginning in terms of trying to oust Eddie Livingstone, one of the Toronto owners, and then having to find whether it was going to be legal or not for some of his former players to play in the new league. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. One more segment to go. We'll take you up to the top of the hour. This show has flown by, and it will be a busy day in the National Hockey League. We'll preview some of the games. Still some stuff from Friday night that we haven't touched on much else. I want to try to squeeze in a couple of things in our next segment as well. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, CJAD. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to CJAD.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 D's. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and SeatGiant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag #HUDogoftheDay. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition. Back again tomorrow, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Fantasy 5 tomorrow. Hashtag Fantasy 5 with Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DauberHockey.com. Busy Saturday in the National Hockey League with 9 games. Nothing till this evening. Evening action, 7 p.m. Eastern. The first starts. Buffalo's in Boston. Ottawa's in Toronto. Columbus Blue Jackets are hosting New Jersey. New Jersey Devils doing a mom's trip, and all the players were taking selfies with the moms yesterday. That was kind of cool. I like that as opposed to the dad's trip that so many teams do. The Devils are shaking it up this year. They're doing a mom's trip. Good for them. We had a bunch of interesting action on Friday as well. Talked to Michael Smith a little bit earlier in the hour about the Carolina Hurricanes and a victory against the Vancouver Canucks on Friday. They have the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday. Washington Capitals victorious for the second time in as many games against the Columbus Blue Jackets. What's going on with Columbus? 5 straight losses. Devils could use a win. They've lost a couple of games as well. Blue Jackets long ago looked like they were just going to cruise, be comfortably in the postseason, but they've lost 5 in a row now. They got blitzed by the Caps again. And now they're on the outside of the playoffs. Carolina is ahead of them in the East. Power play has been awful for much of this year. The defense is suspect at times. Sergei Bobrovsky, when he's on, he looks great. When he's not, he looks very underwhelming. 4 goals and 17 shots last night. I don't know if this is a team that maybe needs a jolt to get them sorted out, pointed in the right direction. This is a Columbus Blue Jackets team that's just kind of starting the spiral downward, and they got to catch it quickly. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves on the outside of the playoff picture. And that would be bad news for business in Columbus. I haven't talked much about this, but I want to touch on it before we get too far ahead and run out of time. The game between the Detroit Red Wings and the New York Islanders on Friday, I'm still shaking. 7-6 is the final. Wings go up 3-0. They're up 5-2 midway through the third period. Then Tyler Bertuzzi takes a stupid retaliation penalty against Cal Clutterbuck. Now, Cal Clutterbuck did sell it. Bertuzzi gets tossed with a match for slashing. If it hasn't been already, and I haven't seen that it has been, that the match penalty is going to get rescinded. That was no match penalty. That was no match penalty worthy slash. If he knew he was going to get a match penalty, he would have gotten his money worth. Bertuzzi gets escorted to the dressing room. And apparently the Red Wings completely forget how to play defense because the Islanders score 4 goals on the ensuing power play. And they take the lead in the game. However, the drama is not done because Mike Green scores to tie the game in the closing seconds. Detroit loses the game, though, in overtime. Brock Nelson, game-winning goal, completes the hat trick. I'm not sure where you want to start on this one because there's so many layers to this stinky onion. Yes, there were deflections. You're killing an awfully long power play. Peter Mrazek had a tough time trying to stop a few of them. There were goals I can understand getting by. But at some point, you got to make a save. Somebody's got to make a play to prevent a goal and stop the bleeding. 4 power play goals, that is unacceptable. Will this be thing of us have known for a long time that it is clear that this team needs some serious work? This is not just a little tweak here, a little adjustment there. This is call in Chip and Joanna Gaines from Fixer Upper and tear this thing down to the studs and do a total gut job. You want to save some of the charm and of the original sound structure. That's good. Some of the nice little things. Okay, I can see that. But this is going to be a big job. Over the years, you want to use the house comparison. Over the years, the structure has a toll taken on it. There are things that you can cover with a new coat of paint, a little refreshing, a little updating here and there. But at some point, you got to call in the crew. You got to go through demo day. Then you got to rebuild with some modern technology and the new code. That's where the Detroit Red Wings are. Now, for the New York Islanders, aided by the penalty or not, coming back from 3 down midway through the third period. Okay, that's great. Matthew Barzal, he does something that nobody's done in 100 years, has his third 5-point game. That kind of locks up the rookie of the year for him, doesn't it? You can't keep letting your opponents score in bunches, though, the way the Islanders have. I read the headline of a story, and I tweeted it out. I put it up on our Facebook page as well. The headline of a story a couple of days ago from Islanders general manager Garth Snow. He is comfortable with the team's goaltending tandem. And as I said when I posted the piece, so is the rest of the league. New York Islanders have allowed 207 goals against through 56 games played this season, going away more than anyone else in the league. Last night, Thomas Greiss is in net. Brock Nelson scores early in the third period, gives the Islanders a little bit of juice, a little bit of hope. Whoops. 2 quick ones go in. Thomas Greiss goes out. Yaroslav Halak comes in, but he's been victimized on numerous occasions as well. Now, I do agree with the sentiment that Garth Snow expressed in this piece that he is comfortable with the Islanders' goaltending, that you don't just trade away picks or prospects for some short-term help to try to get into the playoffs and go that way. But right now, he and ownership, job number one is get John Tavares to sign a deal. You've got to make some improvements defensively and in your goaltending. It's not good enough. Even if you keep what you've got and squeak into the postseason, how confident can you be going forward? I'm anxious to see how this all plays out, but I think that's maybe one of the big reasons that John Tavares has been saying, yep, I'm waiting. I'm gathering information. And this is Steven Stamkos playing out again. He's going to go through. He's going to gather as much information as he can. He's going to listen probably to some other teams and see what's available, because right now the landscape probably looks very different than it will near the end of June, when he will be getting to a point that he really has to start examining and making that final decision. But the New York Islanders can do themselves some favors now and help their cause when that decision-making process does begin later on in June. Some of the choices and decisions that they make now, they may regret or they may think very highly of at that time when John Tavares is making his decision about where he is going to play in the future. But boy, that's a wild game, though. Outrageous for a number of reasons. I don't know what we're going to get tonight, but I expect that there will be a lot of heightened enthusiasm and a lot of heightened energy in Montreal as the Nashville Predators are in town. Yes, that same Nashville Predators team with PK Subban aboard, who is having an arguably Norris Trophy type season. The discussions will continue about who won, who lost the trade. That can't really be fully judged for a number of years yet. But you can see what's happened with the fortunes of the team. PK went to Nashville, they went up. Shea Weber went to Montreal, they went down. Now, it's not one player cause and effect. There's a lot of different things. But boy, oh boy, it'll be interesting to see. Our friend Adam Vingan was tweeting out earlier this morning. He mentioned it's going to be interesting to see the tearjerker tribute video for Alexei Emelin, former Habs defenseman, tonight as he makes his return to Montreal. Yeah, I can see that one. It'll be 90 seconds worth of borderline hits. That'll be the Alexei Emelin video. But also tonight, we'll mention again that the Tampa Bay Lightning will honor their former captain, Vincent Lecavalier. The Los Angeles Kings are in town to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the LA was the final team in Vincent's career, and the Tampa Bay Lightning were the first team. I just think it's great that he is being honored the way he is. His number will be retired. It was difficult at times. He had his battles with John Tortorella, but they found a way to figure it out. They found a way to get along and have their relationship move forward, and they wound up winning a Stanley Cup and successful. Lecavalier has become and continues to be such a significant part of the Tampa community. His work with charities, Children's Hospital, raising money, raising awareness for great causes. The next big honor, of course, for Vincent Lecavalier will be his induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Ottawa is in Toronto. Yeah, okay. One team going to the playoffs. The other team gave their general manager a 3-year contract extension. It's only going to be interesting to see what happens with Pierre Dorion and the Senators moving forward, because much like the John Tavares situation, now Karlsson is a year further away from free agency, but you got to find out if he's going to be your guy going forward, if that's going to be the player that is going to be part of your team when you might be hopeful of winning a Stanley Cup. 9 games on Saturday. There'll be 9 more tomorrow. We'll get into that. We'll look back on all the action from Saturday night on tomorrow's program. We'll be back with you Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Also want to mention our Dog of the Day winner. We do it every Saturday. Ask you to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Submitted by Amy Dunavant. Dog Jade. There is a cutie in a Nashville Predators jersey. Our thanks to Bob Duff, to Michael Smith, to Robyn Flynn, to Jesse Dougherty, and to Luke Lapinski for joining us on the program today. Thanks for listening. Enjoy a great day of hockey. Back with you tomorrow morning at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with CJAD to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design, and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit NovaProductDesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.